Hey, we got MrBeast's empire is rotting from the inside. Hey, man, we know who MrBeast is. Don't really got to explain too much. But it looks like there's some things going on behind the scene that we don't know. Let's react.
I was yelled at, cursed at.
Lorraine Mavromatis claims she was subject to sexual harassment and gender bias.
I was obligated to attend one-on-one meetings at the CEO's house by myself in an upstairs room only lit by a side lamp.
Her lawsuit claims male employees would tell women to shut up in meetings and mock female participants in MrBeast.
MrBeast built a $5 billion empire on one word, giving, and a woman who helped build that empire says she was on a company work call from a hospital bed in active labor, holding her breath through the contractions so nobody on the line would hear. That's in a federal complaint filed against his production companies in North Carolina, and it's one page out of a very thick stack, because for a decade, Jimmy Donaldson was untouchable. 500 million subscribers, handing strangers stacks of cash, buying somebody a house on a random Tuesday, feeding an entire town on camera. He turned charity into content and content into a company, and dodged the backlash that eventually swallows every other creator on the platform. Then there's the version of that company being described under oath, and the two don't overlap anywhere. What makes this different from the usual creator scandal is that it isn't one bad news cycle. It's filing stacked on filing, internal documents leaking out, former staff finally willing to attach their names to things. What all of it describes is not the feel-good machine you watch on screen. It's an operation that scaled faster than anyone inside it could manage, with almost nobody in place to say stop. And the newest complaint might be the ugliest one yet. On April 22nd, a former Beast Industries executive named Lorraine Mavromatis filed in federal court. She'd been brought in during 2022 to run their Instagram.
Tonight, MrBeast's companies are facing a legal challenge of their own, just as Jimmy Donaldson himself took the stage at the Time 100 Summit as one of the world's most influential people. Former employee Lorraine Mavromatis filing a federal lawsuit in North Carolina, claiming she faced discrimination, retaliation, was required to work while on maternity leave, and was terminated within a few weeks of returning to the job.
Damn. So she gave birth, still had to work, and then came back and got fired. Oh, they grimy. Oh, they foul for that.
She was too high caliber for the position.
She did not tread water. 2 promotions inside 12 months, from managing a single lane to sitting over an entire division, eventually overseeing roughly 20 people, and a monthly budget in the hundreds of thousands, on a salary that climbed to $250,000 a year. In her filing, she calls herself a rising star there. Look at that trajectory. And it's not somebody flattering themselves. It's just what the paperwork shows. She admired Jimmy, she bought into what they were building. She even wiped her own personal presence online, deliberately, because she didn't want a single person accusing her of using his name to grow a following of her own. That's not somebody who walked in hunting a payday. That's somebody who was completely bought in. And then, according to her, it curdled. The complaint says she was frozen out of rooms she should have been in, rooms that were otherwise entirely men. She says she was told to shut up and stop talking during meetings she was the one running, in front of the staff she supervised. She alleges the former CEO, Jimmy's own cousin, pushed her into one-on-one meetings at his house instead of the office, in a dim upstairs room, and made remarks about how she looked in her clothes.
The complaint, she alleges that she rose quickly inside the company after starting in 2022, but after raising concerns about sexual harassment, was demoted and transferred into what the lawsuit calls a division where, quote, careers go to die.
When she raised concerns about a wealthy client making advances on her, she says she was told she ought to feel flattered. She also says she was told, when she asked why Jimmy wouldn't work with her directly on certain projects, that he simply got awkward around attractive women. And her response to all of that, allegedly, was to start showing up to work in baggy clothes and a baseball cap, trying to be less visible, at her own job, in an executive role she'd earned twice over. So in November of 2023, she did what every corporate training module tells you to do. She put it in writing, and sent a formal complaint straight up to the head of human resources. Here's where it stops being a normal workplace story. The head of HR at Beast Industries was Susan Perisher, Jimmy Donaldson's mother, so follow the chain. She was allegedly mistreated by the CEO, who is Jimmy's cousin. She reported it to the head of HR, who is Jimmy's mother. Both of those people answer to the same man. Both of them share his last name at the dinner table. There was no neutral party anywhere in that building, not one. At a company with hundreds of employees, an Amazon deal, and outside investors, the entire complaint pipeline ran through the founder's family, which means the honest question isn't whether her complaint was handled badly. It's whether there was ever any realistic version of events where a complaint like hers went anywhere at all. What came next, per the lawsuit, was a demotion into an obscure role. And then she became pregnant. Mavromatis claims nobody at the company ever walked her through her rights under FMLA, the federal statute guaranteeing 12 weeks of unpaid, job-protected leave for something like childbirth. She says there was no meaningful parental leave policy in place at all, so she was scared that if she genuinely stepped back.
Lawsuit also alleges Mavromatis was contacted to work while on maternity leave, and that the company never gave her required notice of her rights under the Family and Medical Leave Act.
Jimmy Donaldson himself, he says that you've got to get the job done, and there's no excuses.
Her suit claims she feared retaliation if she refused to work during her leave and was on a work conference call while in the labor and delivery room and traveled to Brazil for a shoot with soccer star Neymar a few weeks after giving birth.
But if Neymar wins, I will donate it to whatever charity he chooses.
No mother would want to leave their newborn baby behind to go to work, especially out of the country when you're breastfeeding your baby. That's the last thing that I wanted to do.
Everything she'd built would be gone by the time she returned, so she never stepped back. She stayed on the calls. She worked straight through it, which brings you back to that hospital bed. Her account is that she joined a team call from labor and delivery, holding her breath between contractions, so the people on the other end wouldn't clock what was happening. That isn't dedication. That's somebody convinced she'd be finished if she went quiet for a week. Nobody arrives at that belief alone. Somebody teaches it to you. Under 3 weeks after she came back, they let her go. The reason she says she was given, she was too high caliber for the position she was in. The position she'd been demoted into after complaining. Beast Industries came back swinging and hard. Their spokesperson dismissed the entire filing as a clout-chasing complaint built on deliberate misrepresentations and flatly false statements. They pointed to internal messages. They pointed to a signed copy of the employee handbook carrying her signature, which they say spells out FMLA and parental leave policy plainly. Their position is that her role disappeared in a restructuring under new leadership that cut positions held by men and women alike.
Clout-chasing complaint is built on deliberate misrepresentations and categorically false statements, and we have the receipts to prove it. There is extensive evidence, including Slack and WhatsApp messages, company documents, and witness testimony that unequivocally refutes her claims. We will not submit to opportunistic lawyers looking to manufacture a payday from us.
They also maintain that working through her leave was her own idea, not something anyone asked of her.
By NBC News show Mavromatis' signature on an employee handbook dated 4 days before giving birth, which laid out the company's maternity leave policies. Something Mavromatis says she doesn't remember.
So you never signed any sort of FMLA documents 4 days before you gave birth?
No, I do not recall signing, and I was never informed of my rights.
NBC News also reviewed a message in which Mavromatis appears to express a willingness to go to Brazil.
So you've got two accounts that cannot both be true. Eventually a jury sorts out which one is. But there's one piece of this nobody is fighting over, because it didn't come from her. It came from the company. Beast Industries wrote a guide for its own staff. Dozens of pages, handed out internally, explaining how to succeed working there. Not a leaked private message. Not somebody's memory of a conversation. An official document, distributed on purpose, to employees. Read the lines in order, and watch what it's actually training people to accept. First, the hours. It reportedly tells staff that however many hours you put in is irrelevant. Whatever it takes, however long it takes, that's the standard. Then the behavior. It reportedly has a section explaining that it's fine for the boys to act childish. Written down, approved, circulated. And then the last one. It allegedly states that no doesn't mean no.
Absolutely unacceptable, which rolls us right into page 19. No does not mean no. For the people out there who are saying, he's not edgy anymore, he's learned, this document is pretty new and references some of his newer videos. He has not learned. This is who he is. So the title No Does Not Mean No is a very obvious reference to essay. Instead of communicating in a professional manner, saying be persistent when you're producing or working, no does not mean no is the company culture. of MrBeast.
Stop on that. In a company handbook handed to staff at a business carrying a $5 billion valuation with a series on Amazon and institutional money on the cap table, every allegation in that lawsuit suddenly has a policy sitting behind it. The executive too frightened to hang up during labor isn't an outlier if the paperwork already told her the hours don't matter. The comments about her clothes aren't a rogue individual if the paperwork already said the boys get to be childish. Nobody writes those sentences by accident. You write them when it has genuinely never occurred to you that anyone outside the building will ever read the thing. And this isn't even where the legal trouble started. The MrBeast's case is just the newest layer sitting on top. The ground was already moving well before she filed anything. Go back to September of 2024. 5 former contestants from Beast Games, the enormous Amazon Prime competition series Jimmy himself called the magnum opus of his career, brought a class action against his production companies and Amazon.
Popular YouTuber MrBeast and Amazon are facing a lawsuit over a new reality competition. 5 contestants say the show wasn't what they thought it was going to be and that they were misled from the start.
More contestants have attached themselves to it since. If you weren't following it, Beast Games was the largest prize competition ever put on television. 1,000 contestants, $5 million on the line, $100 million budget. He sold it as the culmination of everything he'd built toward. And when it landed in December of 2024, it broke records, several of them officially recognized by Guinness. On paper, a total victory. The people who were physically standing on that set described something else. The lawsuit alleges contestants were mistreated throughout production, that people were physically hurt attempting challenges, and weren't given proper medical care afterward.
Several contestants said that they had not received their medication on time, including one contestant who needed insulin, instead receiving it hours or even days after their scheduled dosing times. This is so dangerous to...
Yo, I can't lie, yo, bro. Like, we only see the finished products, but we never see the behind the scenes of what goes on in these videos. You would think that MrBeast would take better care of the people that he brings in, right? Because of who he is. But then again, you just never know who a person is.
Diabetic. This is awful.
That multiple contestants were carried out of the arena on stretchers. It claims they weren't fed properly, weren't allowed enough sleep, weren't given real breaks.
Class action lawsuit claiming the Amazon Prime show exploited the labor of the contestants, alleging sexual harassment and a hostile work environment. The show, a partnership between MrBeast, Jimmy Donaldson, and Amazon Prime Video, marketed Beast Games as the biggest reality competition series ever, with 1,000 contestants competing for a $5 million cash prize, the biggest single prize in the history of television and streaming. But now 5 of those contestants claiming the show didn't provide fair wages or even bare minimum legal working conditions. Many are still awaiting their promised reimbursement.
Female contestants say they went days without access to basic hygiene supplies or clean underwear, and when they raised it, according to the MrBeast's filing, executives back at headquarters treated it as a joke, laughed about it out loud in the office. That's the detail that should stop everybody. Look at who's talking.
Several contestants said that when they had sought out production staff members for assistance with medical care, food, and hygiene issues, the staff members were often not helpful and appeared disorganized. Some staff members yelled and cursed at...
On one side, staff who built the company from the inside over years. On the other, contestants who were outsiders for a few weeks and had never set foot in that building. Those two groups have no connection to each other. They never compared notes, and they're describing the same environment, the same dismissiveness, the same sense that the normal rules stop at the front door. When two groups who've never met hand you the identical account, it stops being a story. It becomes a pattern. And then the contestant case drops the allegation that nobody talks about enough, probably because it's buried under everything louder. It claims producers pushed contestants into signing falsified paperwork so the production could improperly collect state tax credits in Nevada. Read that again slowly. Not long shooting days, not bad catering, not a chaotic set. Documents allegedly falsified, so a company could pull public money it wasn't entitled to. Everything else in these filings is a fight over workplace conduct, and workplace conduct fights end in settlements. Money changes hands, nobody admits anything, it disappears. That's the normal path. Tax credit paperwork is a different road entirely. Those aren't civil disputes between an employer and an employee. Those involve a state, and states don't settle quietly to protect somebody's brand. If that allegation has any weight behind it, it doesn't end with a check and an NDA. That's the one hanging over all of this that no amount of PR can absorb. When the first leaks surfaced before the series even premiered, Jimmy went on X and said there was mountains of behind-the-scenes footage proving the claims were blown out of proportion, but that he couldn't release any of it because it would spoil the show. He gave more or less the same answer on Good Morning America in February of 2025, saying his lawyers had to handle the specifics, but that he'd personally spoken with 700 or 800 contestants, and they'd all had a great time.
MrBeast's production company and Amazon hit with a proposed class action lawsuit filed in the fall by 6 anonymous contestants who claim sexual harassment, that they were misled, and that the show exploited them.
They say they were in unreasonable, unsafe, and unlawful employment conditions. How do you respond to that?
I got to let the lawyers handle that. I can't comment on it, but I can say I've personally talked to 700, 800 contestants. They all want to come back. They all had a great time, and you can watch their content online, and I think it speaks for
700 or 800, said casually, like he'd sat down with each of them one by one. Meanwhile, Amazon ordered 2 more seasons, so the platform clearly isn't running from him, and the business kept climbing. $200 million in fresh capital at a $5 billion valuation in January of 2026. On the spreadsheet, every arrow still points up. Now pull back and look at the last few years as one image. He sued MrBeast's Burger over the quality of the food. They countersued for north of $100 million, accusing him of strong-arm tactics to force them out of the business.
They countersued MrBeast and Beast Ventures for breach of contract. Quote, "This case is about a social media celebrity who believes his fame means that his word does not matter, that the facts do not matter, and that he can renege and breach his contractual obligations without consequence. And Virtual Dining Concepts contends that when they contracted with Donaldson, the parties agreed that MrBeast would, quote, become the face of a virtual restaurant brand in exchange for a share of the revenue and later a stake in the business. VDC says that Donaldson was the one who pushed the rapid expansion of Beast Burger. Quote, would, quote, become the face of a virtual restaurant brand in exchange for a share of the revenue and later a stake in the business. VDC says that Donaldson was the one who pushed the rapid expansion of Beast Burger. Quote, while plaintiffs originally planned to open MrBeast's Burger in a smaller select number of locations, defendants pushed plaintiffs to open MrBeast's Burger in as many locations as possible.
Mexican authorities opened an inquiry after his Chichen Itza video. Officials said his crew stayed past closing, climbed restricted structures, went into protected temples, and promoted feastables inside a protected archaeological site.
Mexican authorities suing a company they say helped YouTube megastar MrBeast produce this now viral video.
Why is this not in a museum? Why is a YouTuber holding this? Get this away from me.
Titled, I Explored 2,000-Year-Old Ancient Temples. The video has racked up over 60 million views in less than a week.
This is the door to the inside of this massive Mayan temple.
Authorities say the video taken inside the nation's ancient pyramids violated the terms of government permissions.
We're gonna visit this bad boy.
In the video, MrBeast, whose real name is James Donaldson, explores ancient Mayan cities in southeastern Mexico.
Can I take one home?
Well, I do go to jail.
I would go to jail?
Yes, sir.
At one point, the influencer, who has 395 million subscribers on YouTube, surprised at the level of access.
I can't believe the government's letting...
Mexico's president publicly called for a review of how those permits ever got signed off on. The Beast Games class action is still moving, and now a federal complaint from a former executive. Completely different situations, completely different circumstances, all of them circling the same underlying accusation. An operation running as though the standard rules were written for somebody else.
I wasn't as confident in my ability to be successful, and you know, when you're probably 20 and you're hiring all these people, I have high risk tolerance, but I'm reinvesting every dollar I make. I'm hiring my friends from school. I've hired my mom. Like, these people I really care about are depending on me, and then I upload a video and it does bad, and then people, I pour all my time and effort into it, but maybe it doesn't come across as well. Like the video, and some people might have interpreted it as lazy, and you read a comment being like, wow, fucking lazy. Like, I thought you made great videos.
Which brings you to the actual center of this. Jimmy Donaldson is 27. He built a $5 billion media business almost entirely on instinct, shoveling every dollar back into bigger and bigger productions. His cousin took the CEO chair. His mother ran human resources. Friends he's had since childhood have held senior positions from the beginning. That setup is fine when you're a teenager filming videos in your bedroom. It falls apart the second you're running 700 employees, a prime series, a snack brand on shelves nationwide, outside investors on the cap table, and a federal labor law telling you exactly how you're required to treat the people working for you. And the genuinely bleak part is what the brand is built on. One word: generosity. The entire persona, every thumbnail, every upload is about giving something to somebody who needed it. And now you have a former executive saying she was on a work call in a delivery room, too frightened to hang up. You have contestants saying they couldn't get food or medical attention on a $100 million production. You have an internal document that reportedly tells staff their refusal doesn't count for anything. The promise and the alleged reality aren't just misaligned, they're inverted, and that kind of contrast does not quietly fade.
Morning, a former employee is suing his production company.
I was yelled at, cursed at.
Lorraine Mavromatis claims she was subject to sexual harassment and gender bias.
I was obligated to attend one-on-one meetings at the CEO's house by myself in an upstairs room only lit by a side lamp.
Her lawsuit claims male employees would tell women to shut up in meetings and mock female participants in MrBeast videos. She says after returning from maternity leave, she was fired.
And the reason was, and I quote, "You are too high of a caliber for this position."
Financially, he's going to be completely fine. The money just landed. Amazon is still buying. 500 million subscribers will click whatever he uploads next. The executive case will most likely settle. The contestant case will probably grind on for years. That's simply how these things move at this scale. Reputation is a separate ledger entirely. He spent over a decade constructing one of the most deliberately engineered public images the internet has ever produced. The generous one. The one making things better, the one who gives. Every filing, every leaked page, every former employee willing to go on record shaves a little more off it, and winning in court puts none of it back. You can walk out of a courtroom victorious and still lose in the only place that ever actually paid you. What he's being asked to answer for now isn't the videos or the giveaways, it's the company underneath them. Because here's what nobody at Beast Industries seems to have processed yet. People will forgive an enormous amount from a 27-year-old who got too big too fast. Bad calls, bad hires, even a bad season. What they won't forgive is finding out that the man who sells generosity for a living had none of it left for the people building it for him. That's the bill coming due, and no subscriber count on earth covers it.